Hello and welcome to the transcription explanation of this design. It says the Storm Cellar in this script, which me and my friends created in school, and it has since gone viral to the point of being adopted on the largest time-traveling franchise in the world, Doctor Who. So many people recognize it as Circular Gallifreyan, but it still started with a group of kids, mostly Lauren, who created the first grid system, and then I hopped in really early with a lot of the stylistic variation and sentence structure and numbers and a lot of stuff like that. And I'm the scribe listed on Lauren's site for doing these commissions, which is probably how you found me. So let's go ahead and get to explaining how this script works. So first things first, above me is a grid, and the columns and rows form the different consonants. So each row is made with one of these four letter stems. So in the top row, there's a horseshoe shape, or a deep divot. In the second row, there's a floating circle. Third row is a shallow divot, and bottom row is a crossing circle. Now these different columns, they either have dot modifiers, or they have line modifiers, or no modifier at all. So, for example, the letter T is going to be the very first letter in this row, or this column. So in the third row, in the first column is the letter T, and that means it's a shallow divot with no dots or lines. Where an R is going to be the same shape, the same shallow divot, but with 3 dot modifiers. Now let's go ahead and look at our design here. So this here is actually the same thing done in an unraveled style, where each letter is unwrapped. So this is the letter T. And we don't have to use the TH character in the bottom row. We can choose to do a T or a TH based on how we want the designs to fit together. And I wanted this shallow divot shape here so I could link the words together. So you see how this shallow divot is the same as that one? That's because here's our letter T. And it's okay that this line passes through it, because what matters is where the line ends on a letter. So this line counts here and here, but not here. So this is our T with no modifiers. And then we have an HE together. Vowels are these little guys, and they're also little guys in the grid above me, and this E is centered. So it's either centered on our word circle line, like this one here, or it's centered inside our consonant. So here's a H with an E on it, and an H has 2 line modifiers, and those are these 2 thick lines coming off right here. So that's a T, H, E. So that's the word the in this circle. Oh, and this little guy is our start and rotation marker. It's optional. You don't have to have that, but it's nifty if you want to rotate the design or do whatever you want with it, like flip it, mirror it, so that way you can still tell where the start is and how to read it, because we start at the start marker and go counterclockwise, but you can also just start at the bottom and go counterclockwise, and that works too, so it's an optional marker. But let's go ahead and move on to our next word, so storm. An S is a shallow divot with 3 lines on it. 1, 2, 3. And our T is this thicker one here. Because we had 2 in a row that were in the same column, I chose to stack them. And when you stack letters, if they're 2 different letters, you use 2 different thicknesses of lines. So we have a thin line for the S and a thick line for the T. Because you read the S before the T, so the S has to be thin and then it thickens up to be the T. And then our O is here, floating inside our word circle. An R is a shallow divot with 3 dots, and an M is a floating circle with 3 lines. And the 3 lines on this one are this thick one, this thin one, and then this thick one. So that's 1, 2, 3 here, and this S's lines are 1, 2, 3, and it's okay that this line forms a curve. That's totally fine. You can tell it's not something like an M or a letter with this stem, because it's not complete, because it's broken up right here, which you can't do if it's to count as a full consonant circle. But anyway, STORM is storm. And then a C is a floating circle with 4 dots, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this whole word has a whole lot of dots, so I made this nice little pattern here. And we have our C and then our E by itself here. And then we have our 2 L's, and because they're the same letter, when we stack them, we can make them the same thickness and not have to do 6 total dots for this. So there's only 1, 2, 3 total dots for this double L. And I'm actually going to shift this a tiny bit, so that way this looks like it's got 3 dots there and 3 dots here. Just because this dot needs to be a tiny bit closer to the R, and this dot needs to be closer to the L, so that we can tell that there's 3 dots here and 3 dots here, instead of 4 dots here and 2 dots here. So I'm shifting the dots just a little bit. Okay, so we have these 3 dots closest to this double L, and then we have our A. And even though this A is right in line with the double L, you read the A after the double L because you read a consonant before a vowel if they're together. So here is our A, and here's our A here. And then last but not least, here's our R with 3 dots. So even though this is a big old chain of dots, we can tell there's 1, 2, 3, 4 dots closest or inside of this thicker circle for the C. And then for the double L, we need 3 dots. 1, 2, 3 dots for the double L. And just imagine that these two are stacked right on top of each other. It's not something this unraveled font can do, is stack letters like that. But 1, 2, 3 on this double L, and then 1, 2, 3 on this R. So yeah, that is that design. Oh, and this is the sentence circle. It's where we would put punctuation. So if I wanted to put a period at the end of it, it would look like this. Or I could put it like here. Anywhere that is, okay, so if you're reading this, putting it in here makes it seem like the period is between these two. Putting it at the very end is pretty safe. Yeah, so that's where I would put the period. But yeah, that is the Storm Cellar. Hope you like it. Thanks. Bye.